you ever walked into a room and felt invisible? You try to make eye contact, maybe force a smile, but somehow people just don't seem to notice. Meanwhile, there's always that one person, calm, quiet, not saying much, and yet everyone gravitates toward them. What do they have that you don't? Here's the truth. Attraction isn't about being loud, flashy, or constantly trying to impress others. Real magnetic presence is built in silence through the way you carry yourself, how you think, and the energy you project. In this video, I'll show you 8 powerful habits that will make you socially attractive without saying a single word. And the best part? These habits are rooted in one of the most timeless philosophies ever known, Stoicism. The Stoics believe that true strength comes from within, from mastering your emotions, controlling your reactions, and living in alignment with your values. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room to be the most compelling. You just need the right habits. Habits that make others respect you, trust you, and feel something different when you're around. So if you've ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or misunderstood, stay with me. Because what you're about to learn could change not only how others see you, but how you see yourself. Let's begin. Habit 1. Inner confidence. The quiet power you carry. Let's start with the first and most foundational habit. Inner confidence. Not the loud, cocky, look-at-me kind of confidence. I'm talking about the quiet kind. The kind you don't need to announce, because people can feel it the moment you walk into a room. Here's the thing. We often confuse confidence with extroversion. We think we have to talk more, be more outgoing, or impress people with stories. But true confidence, stoic confidence, isn't about proving anything to others. It's about being rooted in yourself. Grounded, calm, clear. One of my favorite quotes from Marcus Aurelius sums this up perfectly. Perfect tranquility consists in the good ordering of the mind, in your own kingdom. That's it. Confidence isn't external, it's how peaceful and ordered your inner world is. So how do you develop that kind of confidence? Start small, with daily stillness. Take just 5 minutes each morning to sit with your thoughts. No phone, no noise, just you, your breath, and awareness. It might feel awkward at first, but over time, this practice builds self-trust. You become more familiar with your thoughts, your emotions, your reactions. You stop being a stranger to yourself. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're in a meeting, and someone challenges your idea. If you lack inner confidence, your mind might race. What if they're right? Am I dumb? Should I not have said anything? But if you've trained yourself in silence, if you've faced your thoughts without running, then you can respond with clarity. That's an interesting point. Let's explore it. You're not defending. You're not crumbling. You're simply rooted, and that's powerful. Another practical habit, end-of-day reflection. At night, before you go to bed, ask yourself, what did I do well today? Where did I lose my balance? What can I improve tomorrow? You don't need a journal, just honest reflection. This daily check-in strengthens your inner compass. The more you know yourself, the less you need validation from others. And ironically, the less you seek attention, the more attention you naturally draw. People are drawn to those who don't need them to be okay. They sense that grounded energy, that presence. You become a mirror, reflecting not noise but clarity, not ego but authenticity. And here's a modern twist. In today's hyper-digital world, everyone's screaming for attention, on social media, in meetings, even in conversations. So when you walk in, calm and composed, speaking with intention, you disrupt the noise. You stand out by not trying to stand out. This is what makes Stoic confidence different. It's not about being the alpha. It's about being centered. It's about knowing that your worth isn't up for negotiation. You don't need to be louder. You just need to be present and peaceful in that presence. Final thought on this habit, let go of the pressure to perform. You're not on a stage. You don't need to win people over. Instead, become the kind of person you admire, composed, self-aware, and guided by your own values. Because when you feel whole on the inside, you'll start to radiate that wholeness on the outside. And trust me, that's the kind of silent attractiveness the world can't ignore. Habit 2. Calmness. The unshakable energy that draws people in. Now let's move on to habit 2. Calmness. This is one of the most underrated but deeply magnetic traits you can develop. Think about it. When life gets chaotic, who do people instinctively trust and turn to? Not the loudest person, not the smartest person. It's the one who stays calm, collected, grounded. And this isn't just some abstract idea. The Stoics were very clear on this. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Let that sink in. Calmness is not about pretending everything's okay. It's about choosing how you show up, especially when things aren't okay. So how do you cultivate calmness? Start with your breath. It's simple, free, and always with you. The next time you feel anxious, annoyed, or stressed, stop. Take a deep breath in through your nose, hold it for a few seconds, then exhale slowly through your mouth. Do this 3 times. Right there, your nervous system begins to reset. You're no longer reacting, you're responding. Let me give you a real-life example. Say you're stuck in traffic, running late for something important. Your heart's racing, your thoughts are spiraling. I'm gonna be late, they'll think I'm unprofessional, this is a disaster. But here's the Stoic mindset shift. Can I control the traffic? No. Can I control my response to it? Absolutely. So instead of pounding the steering wheel or yelling at the car in front of you, you pause, you breathe. You say to yourself, this moment is out of my hands, my reaction is not. That's calmness. That's power. Another way to build calmness, acceptance. The Stoics teach us to divide everything in life into 2 buckets. What you can control, what you can. And anything you can't control, let it go. Don't waste your energy trying to bend reality to your will. That doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop resisting what already is and you start moving with wisdom. Now let's talk about body language, because calmness doesn't just live in your mind. It radiates through your posture, your gestures, your tone. When you're calm, you don't fidget, you don't talk over people, you don't rush your words. Instead, you move with intention. You speak when you mean something. You make eye contact, not to dominate, but to connect. People feel this kind of presence, and you know what happens? They slow down around you. They mirror your energy. They trust you, often without knowing why. Here's a modern situation where calmness makes you stand out. Imagine you're in a group conversation. Someone gets defensive, maybe even lashes out. Most people react with tension, maybe even jump in to argue or defend themselves. But you stay still. You don't take it personally. You let the storm pass. And when it does, you offer a grounded response. That moment, it speaks volumes about your character, because calmness in chaos is rare, and rare things are valuable. Last thought, being calm doesn't mean being passive. It means being in control of yourself. You can still be passionate, assertive, even intense, but that intensity is focused, not scattered. When you embody calmness, people feel safer around you. And in a world where everyone's anxious, reactive, and overstimulated, that safety is irresistible. So if you want to be more attractive without saying a word, start by mastering your inner storm. Let your calm be the loudest thing about you. Let's talk about habit 3, presence. The art of truly being there. Presence is one of those things that's hard to define but impossible to ignore. You know it when you feel it. It's like there's something magnetic about a person who is fully present. Someone who's not distracted, not trying to impress, not thinking about what's next. Just here, with you. In a world where everyone's glued to their phones, checking their notifications and multitasking like crazy, presence is a superpower. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic minds, once said, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." In other words, if your attention is divided, you're not really showing up for anything. So what does presence look like? It starts with something simple. Listen like you mean it. Most people aren't actually listening, they're just waiting for their turn to speak. You've probably felt that in conversations, right? Someone nods, but their eyes drift, or they interrupt before you even finish your thought. But when someone truly listens, like really listens, it's electric. It makes you feel seen, understood, valued. And guess what? That's deeply attractive. So the next time you're in a conversation, do this. Put your phone away. Make eye contact. Don't rush to reply. Just listen. You don't need to say the perfect thing. You just need to be there. Let me give you a real-world example. Imagine you're on a date or chatting with a new coworker. Most people try hard to be witty or clever. They overthink every word. But you're calm, attentive. You ask a thoughtful question and genuinely listen to their answer. Suddenly, you're not just another person. You become memorable. Why? Because in a world that's always distracted, your presence becomes a gift. Another way to build presence: practice mindfulness, even in everyday moments. It doesn't have to be spiritual or complicated. Try this. Next time you're drinking your morning coffee or tea, instead of scrolling your phone or thinking about your to-do list, just pause. Feel the warmth of the mug. Smell the aroma. Take a sip slowly. Let that moment be just that moment. Why does this matter? Because presence is a muscle. The more you train it in small things, the stronger it becomes in the big things like conversations, job interviews, relationships, or public speaking. Let's bring this into a workplace scenario. You're in a meeting. Most people are glancing at their laptops, half listening, already preparing their next point. But you're sitting upright, engaged, taking in what others are saying without rushing to interject. Then when you finally speak, everyone listens, not because you're the loudest, but because your energy carries weight. Your presence commands attention, not through force, but through focus. And it's not just what you say, it's your body language too. When you're present, your posture is open but relaxed. You nod when others speak. You maintain eye contact but never force it. You're not fidgeting or scanning the room. All of that tells people, I'm here with you. You matter. And that creates trust, the foundation of all attraction. Quick tip for when your mind starts to wander. Use this phrase: come back. Anytime you feel yourself drifting, during a conversation, during work, during a walk, gently say to yourself, come back. It's a soft nudge to return to the present, to re-enter life right here, right now. Because presence isn't about being perfect. It's about being available, mentally, emotionally, energetically. One final thought: presence doesn't demand attention. It commands it effortlessly. You don't need flashy clothes, clever jokes, or over-the-top gestures when you're truly present. People feel it, and they remember it. So if you want to be the kind of person who others are drawn to, don't try to stand out. Just show up, fully. Because the rarest thing in the world today is someone who's actually there. All right, let's dive into habit 4, integrity, the invisible signal everyone feels. And trust me, this one is a game changer. If presence is what people see, integrity is what they sense. It's that deep, unspoken energy you carry, the alignment between your words, your values, and your actions. And even though most people can't quite put their finger on it, they feel it, and they respect it. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Simple, right? But so powerful. It means decide who you are, then live like it. Don't just talk about your values, be your values. But let's be real for a second. We live in a world where people say one thing and do another, where authenticity is often a marketing tactic. So when you meet someone who's actually consistent, who keeps their word, who shows up with the same character no matter who's watching, that person stands out. That's integrity, and it's incredibly attractive. Not flashy, not loud, but quietly powerful. So how do you practice this in daily life? Start with the small things, the promises you make to others and to yourself. If you say you'll show up at 10, show up at 10. If you commit to a task, finish it, even if no one's watching. If you make a mistake, own it. Don't cover it up, don't deflect. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine your friend invites you to help with a project this weekend. You say yes, but when Saturday comes, you're tired. You didn't sleep well. You have other plans. Now you could text an excuse. We've all done that. But integrity means honoring your word. So you show up, maybe you're not feeling 100%, but you do what you said you'd do. Guess what? That one action speaks louder than 100 motivational quotes. People notice. And more importantly, you notice. Because every time you keep a promise, especially when it's hard, you build self-respect. And people who respect themselves radiate something rare. Here's something else Stoicism teaches us about integrity. It's not just about your actions, it's about your intentions. You can fool others with appearances, but you can't fool your own conscience. So ask yourself regularly, am I being honest with myself? Am I showing up with the same character in private as I do in public? Do I act out of principle or out of pressure? One of the hardest but most liberating things you can do is tell yourself the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. For example, maybe you say you're too busy to exercise, but the truth is you're scrolling Instagram for 90 minutes every night. Integrity means admitting that to yourself without shame, and then adjusting your behavior to match what you say matters. That kind of self-honesty builds trust with others. But more importantly, it builds trust within. And when you trust yourself, you become unshakable. Here's how integrity plays out socially. Let's say you're in a group and someone starts gossiping. Do you join in just to fit in, or do you stay silent or even speak up? Most people go with the crowd. But when you quietly stick to your values without judging others, without needing to explain, you earn a kind of silent respect. You might not get a round of applause, but people will remember, because people admire those who do what's right, not just what's easy. Final thought, integrity isn't perfection. You'll make mistakes, you'll have off days. That's human. But the goal is consistency, not performance. When your actions reflect your values, when your private life matches your public words, when you do the hard thing, even when it's inconvenient, that's when people start to feel your authentic power. You don't need to shout it, you just live it. And in a world full of noise, that quiet strength, that's unforgettable. We're now on habit 5, self-control. The strength to hold back when it's easy to react. And trust me, this one makes a huge difference in how people perceive you. Because while others are quick to react, over-explain, lash out, or let emotions run the show, the person who can stay centered, calm, intentional, that's the one who quietly commands respect. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, said it perfectly. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. And that's what self-control really is. The power to respond instead of react. Not because you're cold or numb, but because you've trained yourself to lead with reason, not emotion. Let's look at a real-world example. Say someone criticizes you in public, maybe a coworker or even a friend. Most people feel the heat rise instantly. How dare they say that? Or I have to defend myself. But what if you didn't react? What if you paused, breathed, and replied with something like, "Thanks for the feedback. I'll think about that." That one sentence shows maturity, grace, and control. You've just flipped the power dynamic without raising your voice, without getting defensive, and people notice because emotional control is rare, and rare, attractive. So how do we build this kind of self-mastery? It starts with awareness. The next time you feel triggered, pause. Literally pause. Feel your body, the racing heart, the clenched jaw, the heat rising. Then ask, is this something I want to carry with me? What's the outcome I really want here? What would my highest self do? That pause alone can save relationships, reputations, and your own inner peace. Another way to train self-control: practice patience. In a world of instant gratification, one-click orders, endless scrolling, fast answers, patience is a disappearing virtue. But the more patient you are, the more power you gain. Try the simple exercise. Next time you're in a slow checkout line or stuck in traffic, instead of reaching for your phone or complaining, just sit with it. Breathe. Notice your urge to escape the moment. Then stay anyway. These moments may feel small, but they're like mental push-ups. They build the muscle of discipline, and disciplined people are magnetic. You can feel their self-possession. Let me give you another scenario. You're in an argument with someone you care about. They say something hurtful, not necessarily because they mean it, but because they're angry. Self-control here isn't about winning the argument. It's about choosing the long-term relationship over the short-term reaction. You can say, "I hear that you're upset. Let's talk when we both calm down." That one sentence, it can diffuse the tension, protect the bond, and show incredible emotional maturity. And again, people notice, because let's face it, anyone can lose their temper. But the person who stays grounded, that's someone you want to follow, trust, and be around. Self-control also means moderation. It's not about suppressing pleasure or pretending you don't have desires. It's about choosing them wisely. Eat the treat, but not the whole cake. Use social media, but don't drown in it. Celebrate success, but don't become arrogant. The Stoics weren't about being monks on a mountain. They were about living in the world, but not being ruled by it. Here's the Stoic perspective you can apply today. Instead of asking, "What do I feel like doing right now?" ask, "What action aligns with who I want to become?" That question alone creates a gap between impulse and intention. And in that gap, that's where freedom lives. Freedom from regret, freedom from overreactions, freedom from the chaos most people live in. Final thought: self-control isn't about perfection or becoming robotic. It's about becoming powerfully aware of your own inner world and leading it rather than being led by it. And when you can do that, you become the calm in the storm, the one who doesn't need to dominate because you already own the most important territory, yourself. That kind of self-possession, it speaks louder than words, and it's unbelievably attractive. Habit 6. Gratitude. The quiet glow that draws people in. Now I know what you're thinking, gratitude? Really? That's just a nice feel-good concept, right? But here's the truth. Genuine gratitude changes your energy. It shifts your presence. And when your presence changes, so does how the world responds to you. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, put it beautifully. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. In other words, it's not what you lack that steals your peace. It's the constant chasing. And let's be honest, we live in a culture of constant comparison, scrolling through perfectly curated lives thinking we're behind. So when someone walks through life content, grounded, and thankful, they stand out. They glow differently. And that quiet glow, it's magnetic. So how do you practice this habit practically? Start with a daily gratitude check-in. It doesn't have to be a big ritual. Just pause once a day, maybe in the morning or before bed, and name 3 things you're genuinely grateful for. They don't need to be dramatic. In fact, the smaller, the better. A warm cup of tea, the way sunlight hits your window, a kind message from a friend. This simple act rewires your brain to notice the good. And when you notice the good, you become good to be around. Let me give you an example. Imagine 2 people at work. One constantly complains about the boss, the weather, the traffic, the coffee machine. You can feel their energy drain a room. The other person, calm, present. They still face challenges, but they find silver linings. They say things like, "Yeah, today's a bit hectic, but I'm glad we've got a team that sticks together." Who do people gravitate toward? The one who appreciates, not the one who resents. Gratitude isn't naive. It's not ignoring problems. It's about choosing to notice what's still right, even when things go wrong. Another powerful gratitude practice: Thank people often. Say thank you not just as a formality but with presence. Thank the barista who makes your coffee with eye contact. Thank your partner for doing something small. Thank your friend for just being there. These tiny acknowledgments build connection. They tell others, I see you, I value you, and that makes you someone others want to be around. Gratitude makes you generous with your energy, and generosity is always attractive. Let's talk about something deeper. Gratitude also makes you more resilient. Why? Because when you train your mind to see what's good, you're better equipped to handle what's hard. For example, when you're going through a rough patch, a breakup, a setback, a failure, your default might be frustration or bitterness. But if you've built the habit of gratitude, you can still say, this hurts, but I'm thankful for what it's teaching me. That shift doesn't erase the pain, but it grounds you in purpose, and people feel that strength. Because let's face it, no one wants to be around someone who's bitter all the time, but someone who's been through pain and still carries appreciation, that's rare, that's powerful, that's stoic. Here's a great mindset to carry forward. Stop chasing more, start seeing more. You don't need a better job, a bigger house, or more followers to be more attractive. You need to show up with a thankful spirit. One that finds beauty in simplicity and calm in chaos. Gratitude also keeps your ego in check. It reminds you, you didn't get here alone. You've been helped, supported, loved, even in small, invisible ways. And that kind of humility, that inner acknowledgement of life's gifts, makes you shine in a way no designer outfit or perfect resume ever could. Final thought, gratitude doesn't shout, it whispers. It says, I'm at peace with what I have. I don't need to impress you. I'm already full. I see the good and I share it. And in a world obsessed with more, that quiet contentment, it's irresistible. Habit 7, humility, the confidence that doesn't need to prove itself. Now let's clear something up right away. Humility isn't weakness. It's not thinking you're less than everyone else or downplaying your worth. Real humility is knowing exactly who you are without needing to shout about it. And in a world full of noise and ego and look at me energy, someone who's quietly confident, grounded, and humble, that's rare. That's powerful. That's attractive. Epictetus, one of the great Stoics, said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." That quote cuts deep, doesn't it? Because so many people walk around trying to appear smart, successful, or experienced, when the truth is they're terrified of being seen as anything less. But here's the Stoic truth. You don't grow when you pretend to know. You grow when you're open to learn. And humility is what opens that door. So, how do we practice humility in real life? First, and this might be tough, accept that you don't have all the answers. Nobody does. You might be the best at your job or have years of experience in a field. Great. But the moment you stop being curious, you stop growing. Let me give you a real-world example. You're in a team meeting and someone younger or less experienced suggests an idea that challenges your view. Do you feel the urge to immediately dismiss it or defend your stance? Or do you pause, listen, and actually consider their perspective? That second response, that's humility. That's what builds trust, respect, and influence, not only in that moment, but long-term. Here's another powerful practice. Listen more than you speak. Sounds simple, but think about how often we interrupt, try to win conversations, or steer things back to us. True humility listens. Not to reply, but to understand. Next time you're in a group conversation, resist the urge to dominate or impress. Ask questions instead. Make space for others. Be curious. The result, people will feel seen and heard, and they'll start associating you with emotional intelligence and depth. That's rare. That's unforgettable. Let's flip the lens for a second. Humility also means treating everyone with equal respect, regardless of status. The Stoics believed we're all part of the same human family. So whether it's the CEO or the janitor, the waiter or the investor, how you treat people says more about your character than any resume ever could. And again, this shows up socially. I'm at a date and the person you're on it with talks down to the server. Total red flag, right? Now imagine someone who says thank you, makes eye contact, and treats everyone with basic decency. That quiet respect, that's humble confidence. That's someone people feel safe around. And that feeling is incredibly attractive. Another key part of humility, owning your mistakes. This one's huge. We all mess up, we all fall short, but very few people are willing to say, I was wrong, I shouldn't have said that, I let you down, and I'm going to do better. When you do that, not out of guilt, but from a place of growth, you stand tall in a way that arrogance never could. People trust those who are real, and real means imperfect, but honest. Quick tip to build more humility daily. At the end of each day, ask yourself, where did I lead with ego? Where did I let someone else shine? What did I learn today from someone I didn't expect to learn from? These questions keep you grounded. They remind you that you don't need to be the smartest in the room. You just need to be open, because open people evolve, and evolving people are magnetic. Final thought, humility isn't about shrinking. It's about standing tall without needing to be taller than anyone else. It's the confidence that says, I'm enough as I am, and I'm still learning. I have value and so do you. I don't need to prove anything. I just need to live with purpose. That quiet kind of self-assurance, it's not just rare, it's revolutionary in today's world. And when people feel your presence, your humility, and your willingness to listen and grow, they'll want to be around you, not because you're trying to impress them, but because you're simply being someone worth knowing. We've arrived at habit 8, patience, the quiet strength that sets you apart. And if you've made it this far, this one might just tie everything together. Patience isn't flashy, it doesn't demand attention, but it speaks louder than you think. In a world that's addicted to speed, instant likes, overnight success, fast answers, patience is rare, and because it's rare, it's powerful. And yes, incredibly attractive. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, wrote, "Time discovers truth." That's a big one, because it reminds us, things that matter take time. Growth takes time, healing takes time, real connection also takes time. And the person who understands this, who doesn't rush, who doesn't force outcomes, who's able to sit with discomfort, becomes a rock in a sea of chaos. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been around someone who gets frustrated over everything? Waiting in line, a slow reply, a minor mistake, they react instantly. That tension, that energy, you can feel it. Now contrast that with someone who remains calm, collected, unbothered by delays or setbacks. They don't lose their cool. They don't rush their words. They understand. Not everything needs an instant response. That person feels safe, stable, magnetic. So how do we develop this rare form of strength? Start by reframing your relationship with time. Most of our impatience comes from believing that things should happen faster, that we should already be successful, that people should respond quicker, that life should go according to plan. But here's the Stoic reframe. This moment is unfolding exactly as it's meant to. My job is to respond with virtue, not with pressure. It's not about being passive. It's about surrendering what you can't control while still showing up fully. Let's apply this to something modern. Say, building a career. You want growth, recognition, purpose. That's great. But if you're constantly comparing yourself to others who got there faster, you'll end up chasing shortcuts, and shortcuts usually cost you more in the long run. Patience reminds you, I don't need to rush, I just need to be consistent. And consistency over time, that's where true mastery and real respect comes from. Let me give you a real-world example. Imagine you're dating someone new. Things are going well, but suddenly they pull back a little. Most people freak out. They text more or overanalyze, spiral. But the person who's patient says, I'll give this space, I'll observe. If it's real, it'll flow back. If not, that tells me something too. That response, it shows self-respect. It shows emotional maturity. It shows that your peace isn't dependent on other people's pace. That's attractive. Another practice: train patience through small moments. When your app takes 3 extra seconds to load, don't tap it 12 times. When someone's telling a story slowly, don't rush them. When you feel an urge to interrupt, pause and let them finish. These tiny moments, they shape who you become. They teach you how to slow down enough to be present, and presence is where true connection happens. Here's something else the Stoics believed. Impatience often comes from fear. Fear that we're falling behind, that we'll miss out, that things won't work out unless we force them. But when you develop patience, you send a different signal. I trust the process. I know who I am. I don't need to control everything. I just need to show up with clarity and calm. That's not just inner peace. That's inner power. And people can feel that. A final thought: patience doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing the right thing and letting it grow in its own time. It's the quiet strength that says, I'm here, I'm consistent, and I'm not going to be shaken by life's pace. In conversations, it makes you a better listener. In relationships, it makes you more grounded. In work, it makes you more resilient. And in a world that's sprinting, the one who walks with presence, intention, and quiet confidence, that person always stands out. So the next time life slows you down, smile, breathe, stay steady. Because what you're building internally and externally is worth the wait. So there you have it. 8 silent habits that can completely transform the way people see you, but more importantly, the way you see yourself. We've talked about confidence, calmness, presence, integrity, self-control, gratitude, humility, and patience. None of these habits require you to be the loudest person in the room. You don't need to impress, you don't need to chase approval. You simply need to embody these principles and let your presence speak louder than words ever could. That's the beauty of Stoicism. It teaches us that strength doesn't have to roar. It can be still, it can be steady, it can be quiet and still shake the world. And in today's noisy, distracted, hyper-reactive world, a calm, grounded, self-aware person, that's someone others trust, admire, and feel drawn to. Now, here's the honest truth. You don't need to master all 8 habits overnight. Just start with one. Pick the one that resonated most with you and commit to practicing it this week. Observe how it changes your energy, how people respond, and how much more centered you begin to feel. If this video spoke to you, I'd love to hear which habit hit home. Leave a comment below. I read every one of them. And if you found value here, a gentle reminder, hit the like button, subscribe for more content like this, and feel free to share it with someone you think might need to hear it too. Thank you for spending this time with me. Stay grounded, stay present, and remember, your silent strength might just be your greatest superpower. See you in the next one.